The pill dissolved slowly against her tongue, bitter and familiar. The same pill her husband had handed her every night for months, with a gentle smile and a soft, "This will help you sleep, baby." She lay still beside him, one hand resting on her 7-month pregnant belly, her breathing slow, steady, pretending to drift away, because tonight she hadn't swallowed it. Tonight she was awake, and when his phone lit up in the darkness and his voice dropped into something cold, something calculated, she realized the man she trusted wasn't helping her sleep. He was preparing to erase her. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 3 months earlier, everything had still made sense. Elena Carter had believed she was just tired. Pregnancy did that, everyone said. The exhaustion, the forgetfulness, the sudden waves of confusion, it was all normal, especially with the stress she had been under. New house, new responsibilities, a husband who worked long hours, a mother-in-law who watched everything she did like she was being evaluated for a role she could never quite earn. "You're not taking care of yourself properly," Lorraine Carter had said one afternoon, standing in Elena's kitchen like she owned it. "No wonder you're so weak. A child needs a strong mother, not someone who can't even stay awake through dinner." Elena had forced a smile, her fingers tightening around the edge of the counter. "I'm just tired, that's all." "Tired doesn't make you forget conversations," Lorraine replied, her tone sharp, almost satisfied. "You asked me the same question 3 times yesterday." Elena hadn't remembered that. That was the part that had started to scare her. At first it was small things. Misplaced keys, emails she didn't remember writing, clothes folded differently than she left them. Then it became worse. Entire conversations gone, nights she couldn't recall, messages sent from her phone that felt like they came from someone else. "You're overworking yourself," Nathan had told her, pulling her close, his voice warm, reassuring. "Your mind just needs rest. That's why I got the prescription." He had shown her the bottle with her name printed neatly on the label. He worked in pharmaceutical consulting. He knew doctors, clinics, treatments. He knew what was safe. She had trusted him. Every night he handed her the pill. Every night he watched her take it. And every morning she woke up feeling like parts of her had been erased. "Did I say something strange last night?" she had asked him once, her voice small, uncertain. Nathan had hesitated just long enough for fear to creep in. "You were a little emotional," he said carefully. "It's the hormones." "You don't remember?" Her stomach had dropped. "No." He had smiled gently, brushing her hair back. "It's okay. That's why I'm here. I'll take care of everything. Everything." The word had settled into her chest like something heavy and unmovable. And then there was Lorraine. At family dinners in front of relatives and friends, she made sure Elena felt it, every flaw, every weakness magnified under her gaze. "She's been very forgetful lately," Lorraine would say casually, sipping her wine. "I worry about the baby." The room would go quiet. Elena would feel every pair of eyes on her. "I'm fine," she would insist, her voice barely steady. But even as she said it, doubt would creep in. Was she? Because sometimes she didn't know anymore. And that was the most terrifying part. It wasn't just that she felt weak. It was that she was starting to believe she was. Back in the present, Elena lay frozen in the darkness, her body perfectly still. Her heart pounding so hard she was sure Nathan could hear it. Beside her, he shifted. The mattress dipped as he sat up. She heard the soft click of his phone unlocking. Then his voice low, controlled nothing, like the gentle tone he used with her. "Yeah, she took it," he whispered. "Give it another 15 minutes. She'll be completely out." Elena's blood turned cold. Her fingers curled instinctively against the sheets, pressing into the fabric to stop herself from reacting. "No, she doesn't suspect anything." He continued, a quiet confidence in his voice that made her stomach twist. "The dosage is working exactly how we planned. She's getting worse. Memory gaps, confusion. It's all consistent." A pause, then a faint sound from the other end of the call. Nathan let out a soft chuckle. "Of course it will hold up in court," he said. "By the time we file for the competency hearing, she won't even be able to defend herself." Elena's breath caught in her throat. Competency hearing. The words echoed in her mind, sharp, impossible to ignore. She'll sign everything. Nathan added, his tone almost bored. She won't have a choice. Once she's declared unfit, I control the assets. The house, the accounts, everything. Everything. The same word. But now it sounded like a sentence, a trap, a life being stripped away piece by piece. Elena felt something break inside her chest, not loudly, not suddenly, but like a slow crack spreading through glass. And then Nathan said something that made her entire world collapse. "And the baby?" the voice on the phone asked faintly. Nathan didn't hesitate. "The baby stays with me," he replied coldly. "She's in no condition to be a mother." Elena stopped breathing, because in that moment she understood. He wasn't trying to help her. He was trying to take everything from her, and he was almost done. Elena didn't move. Not when Nathan ended the call. Not when the room fell silent again. Not even when he stood up and walked toward the bathroom, humming softly like nothing had happened. Her entire body felt frozen, but her mind was screaming. Competency hearing, unfit mother, control the assets. The words looped over and over, each one slicing deeper than the last. For a moment she thought she might lose control, that she might sit up, confront him, demand answers. But something inside her stopped that impulse cold. If she reacted now, she would lose. She forced herself to stay still, to keep her breathing slow, and even the way she had practiced when pretending to sleep. Her hand rested on her belly, fingers trembling slightly as she felt a faint movement from the baby. "I've got you," she whispered silently in her mind. "I won't let them take you." Nathan returned a few minutes later. The mattress dipped as he climbed back into bed, his arm draping over her waist like always. To anyone watching, it would have looked like a protective husband holding his pregnant wife close. Elena had never felt more trapped in her life. "Sleep, baby," he murmured against her hair. She almost flinched. He stayed there for a while, his breathing gradually deepening, steady, peaceful. As if he had nothing to worry about. As if her entire life wasn't something he was carefully dismantling, piece by piece. Elena waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. When she was sure he was asleep, she slowly opened her eyes. The room was dark, the faint glow of the city lights slipping through the curtains. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. She carefully shifted inch by inch, sliding her hand beneath the pillow until her fingers wrapped around her phone. The screen lit up, and she quickly dimmed it, her heart racing. Her hands shook as she opened her messages. There were threads she didn't recognize. Texts sent at odd hours. Words that didn't sound like her. Rambling, emotional, unstable. Messages to friends, to colleagues, even to her own sister. "I don't feel safe anymore. They're watching me. I think I'm losing my mind." Elena stared at the screen, her throat tightening. She hadn't written these. Or had she? That doubt crept in again, sharp and poisonous. No. She clenched her jaw, forcing herself to think clearly. She had just heard him. This wasn't her. This was them. She opened her email next. Drafts. Dozens of them. Half-written messages, incoherent thoughts, fragmented sentences that painted a picture of someone unraveling. Her chest rose and fell unevenly. They were building a case. Not just telling people she was unstable, proving it. Her fingers moved faster now, scrolling, searching, trying to piece together the timeline. The deeper she went, the worse it became. Calendar events she didn't remember scheduling. Notes she didn't recall writing. Medical reminders tied to a doctor she had never met. Dr. H. Hammond. The name appeared again and again. Elena's breath hitched. She had never seen this man, never spoken to him, and yet according to her own records, she had been under his care for weeks. A cold wave of realization washed over her. This wasn't just manipulation. This was documentation. Carefully constructed, detailed, consistent, perfect. She swallowed hard, her gaze drifting toward Nathan's sleeping figure beside her. His face looked peaceful, gentle, the same face she had fallen in love with, the same face that had just calmly discussed taking her child away. A sudden noise made her freeze. A floorboard creaked faintly down the hallway. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. Slow footsteps followed, measured, familiar. Her stomach dropped before she even saw her. The bedroom door opened quietly, just enough to let a sliver of light slip inside. Lorraine stood there, her silhouette sharp against the hallway glow, watching, not surprised, not confused, watching like she had been expecting this moment. Elena's blood ran cold as their eyes met in the darkness, and then slowly Lorraine smiled. Elena's fingers tightened around her phone under the blanket, her pulse roaring in her ears as Lorraine stood in the doorway, completely still, completely awake. For a split second, Elena considered closing her eyes again, pretending she had never woken up. But something in Lorraine's expression stopped her. That smile wasn't curious, it was knowing. Couldn't sleep, Lorraine's voice was soft, almost gentle, but it carried a sharp edge that cut straight through the silence. Nathan didn't stir beside her. Elena forced her breathing to remain slow, her body heavy, as if she were still half asleep. She let her eyelids droop just enough to look disoriented when she turned her head. "I think I woke up," she murmured, her voice thick, uncertain. "I'm not sure what time it is." Lorraine stepped into the room without asking. The door clicked softly behind her. Elena's stomach twisted. Lorraine moved closer to the bed, her heels silent on the carpet, her eyes scanning Elena's face in a way that felt less like concern and more like inspection. "You've been doing that more often," she said, waking up confused, wandering around. "It's getting worse." Elena swallowed, forcing her gaze to drop like she was ashamed. "I don't remember," she whispered. "Exactly." The word landed heavy. Lorraine's lips curved slightly, satisfaction flickering across her face before it disappeared again. She reached down and adjusted the blanket over Elena's stomach, her hand lingering there just a second too long. "You have to be careful," she continued softly. "Stress isn't good for the baby. And in your condition," she paused, letting the silence fill in what she didn't say. "In your condition." Elena felt something inside her twist painfully. "I'm fine," she said weakly, almost automatically. Lorraine let out a quiet breath like she had expected that answer. "Of course you think you are," she replied. "They always do." Elena's eyes snapped up before she could stop herself. Lorraine noticed. For a brief moment, something cold and unmistakable passed between them. Then Lorraine smiled again. "You should get some rest," she said, straightening up. "Nathan is doing everything he can to take care of you. You're lucky to have a husband who's willing to manage things when you can't." Manage. The same word Nathan had used. Elena's chest tightened. "I don't need to be managed," she said a little too quickly. The room went still. Nathan shifted slightly in his sleep but didn't wake. Lorraine tilted her head, studying Elena now with open curiosity. "Don't you?" she asked quietly. Elena's mouth went dry. She realized too late that she had pushed back harder than she should have. Lorraine stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You should be careful what you say," she murmured, "especially when you don't remember saying it later." A chill ran down Elena's spine. Lorraine reached toward the nightstand and picked up the prescription bottle, turning it slowly between her fingers. "Such a shame," she said softly. "A young woman, a baby on the way, and her mind slipping like this." Elena felt her nails dig into her palm under the blanket. "This dosage might need adjusting," Lorraine added almost thoughtfully. "We can't risk you becoming unpredictable." "We," Elena's heart pounded. Lorraine set the bottle back down and looked at her one last time, that same cold, controlled smile returning. "Sleep," she said. Then she turned and walked out of the room. The door closed behind her with a quiet click. Elena lay there completely still, staring into the darkness. Her body trembled now, no longer able to hold it back. They knew. Not everything, but enough. Enough to watch her. Enough to test her. Enough to decide what to do next. Slowly, carefully, she turned her head toward Nathan. He was still asleep, or pretending to be. And for the first time, Elena realized something far more terrifying than the plan itself. She wasn't just being drugged. She was being monitored. And whatever move she made next, they were already waiting for it. Morning came too quickly. Elena forced her eyes open slowly, letting the familiar heaviness settle over her face before she even moved. Her head tilted slightly, her expression unfocused, as if she were still trapped in that fog they had created for her. Nathan was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed watching her. That was new. "Hey," he said, gently brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "How are you feeling?" Elena blinked, letting confusion cloud her eyes. I don't know," she murmured. "Did I wake up again last night?" Nathan's lips pressed together for a fraction of a second. Then he smiled. "You did," he said softly. You were standing in the hallway at one point. You didn't remember how you got there. Elena's stomach dropped, but she forced a small, frightened laugh. That's scary. It's okay, he replied quickly, his tone reassuring. Practiced. That's why we're handling it. You don't have to worry about anything. Handling it. Another word that made her skin crawl. She nodded slowly like she believed him, like she needed him. Across the room, the door creaked open. Lorraine stepped in without knocking, already dressed, already composed her presence, filling the space like something heavy and suffocating. I thought I heard voices, she said, her gaze flicking between them. How is she? Nathan sighed just enough to sound tired. Worse, he said. She doesn't remember anything from last night. Elena felt the words land like a verdict. Lorraine nodded slowly, her expression tightening with something that looked almost like concern, but her eyes betrayed her. That's not good, she said. We can't keep pretending this is just stress. Elena's fingers curled into the sheets. I told you, Lorraine continued, her voice louder. Now sharper, this should have been addressed earlier. A pregnant woman in this condition, what happens when the baby comes? What happens if she forgets something important? I won't. Elena said quickly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Both of them turned to look at her. The silence stretched. Nathan's expression softened, but there was something behind it now. Something calculating. You don't remember saying that last night either, he said gently. You were convinced someone was watching you. Elena's breath hitched. I didn't mean, it's okay, he cut in, his tone soothing but firm. We know you're not yourself. Not yourself. Lorraine stepped closer, folding her arms. This is exactly what I was afraid of, she said. Denial. It always comes before the collapse. Elena's chest tightened painfully. I'm not collapsing, she whispered, but even to her own ears it sounded weak. Lorraine didn't even bother hiding her reaction this time. A faint, cold smile. Of course you'd say that, she replied. That's why professionals exist. People who can make the decisions you can't. Elena felt the room tilt slightly. What do you mean, she asked. Nathan hesitated. Just long enough. Then he reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. I think it's time we scheduled a formal evaluation, he said. Just to be safe. A competency assessment. The words hit harder now, spoken in daylight, dressed up as concern. Elena's vision blurred for a second. You think I'm not capable? She asked, her voice trembling. Nathan didn't answer immediately. Lorraine did. We think you need help, she said flatly, before something irreversible happens. Something irreversible. Elena's hand instinctively moved to her belly. The baby shifted. Alive. Real. Still hers. For now. I don't want to go, she said quietly. Nathan's grip tightened slightly. It's not really a choice, Elena. He replied, his voice still soft, but the softness no longer felt safe. This is for your own good. There it was. Not a suggestion, a decision, already made. Elena lowered her gaze, letting her shoulders slump, letting the fear show just enough to convince them. Okay, she whispered. Lorraine exchanged a glance with Nathan, satisfied. Elena saw it, felt it. They thought she was breaking. They thought she was giving in. But as she sat there playing the part, something else settled deep inside her chest. Not fear, not anymore. Something colder. Because now she knew exactly what they were planning. And if they wanted to prove she was losing her mind, she would give them exactly what they expected. Right up until the moment she destroyed them. Elena started watching everything. Not openly, not recklessly. She moved carefully, slowly, like someone learning how to walk again. But this time, every step had a purpose. That morning after Nathan left for work, she sat at the kitchen table with a blank stare, her hands wrapped around a mug of untouched tea. Lorraine stood across from her, observing, waiting for something. Maybe a mistake, maybe a crack. Elena gave her nothing. I think I forgot if I ate already, Elena said softly, staring down at the table like she was embarrassed. Lorraine didn't even blink. You had breakfast 10 minutes ago, she replied, her voice flat. You asked me the same question twice. Elena nodded slowly, pressing her lips together like she was trying not to cry. I'm sorry. Lorraine's eyes softened, but not with kindness. With confirmation. Good, Elena thought. Let her believe it. The moment Lorraine turned her back, Elena's expression shifted just for a second. Sharp, focused, awake. Then it disappeared again. That afternoon, Elena went to the bedroom under the pretense of resting. She closed the door halfway, just enough to avoid suspicion, and sat on the edge of the bed. Her eyes scanned the room carefully. If they were building a case, they needed proof. And proof meant records, documentation, surveillance. Her gaze drifted upward, the smoke detector. She froze. It was subtle, almost invisible, but there was something off, a tiny dark dot, slightly misaligned from where it should have been. Her stomach tightened. Slowly, carefully, she picked up a small hand mirror from her dresser. She angled it toward the ceiling, adjusting the reflection until there, a faint flicker, not light, a lens. Her fingers trembled slightly as she lowered the mirror. They were watching her, not just documenting what she said. Everything, her movements, her expressions, her breakdowns. They weren't waiting for her to lose control. They were creating the moment and recording it. Elena sat there, her breathing shallow, her pulse racing in her throat. For a brief second, panic surged, the urge to rip it out of the ceiling, to destroy it, to scream. But she stopped. That would be exactly what they wanted. Instead, she stood up slowly, deliberately, like she was disoriented. She stumbled, slightly knocking into the edge of the dresser, letting out a soft, confused sound. "Hello," she called weakly, as if she didn't know where she was. No answer. But she knew someone was listening, watching. Good. Let them watch. She moved toward the closet, opened it, then stood there staring blankly at her clothes like she had forgotten why she came. Her hands shook just enough to look real. What was I doing?" she whispered. The performance felt wrong, but necessary. Every second, every movement, she imagined it being recorded, analyzed, stored. If they wanted instability, she would give them instability, but controlled, measured, weaponized. Later that evening, while Lorraine prepared dinner, Elena slipped into the living room and reached for her phone. Her fingers moved quickly, now precise. She opened her banking app. What she saw made her blood run cold. Transactions, multiple. Large amounts transferred over the past few months, from her personal savings, into a joint account. An account she didn't remember opening. Her chest tightened as she scrolled further. 5,000, 10,000, 15. Each one spaced just far enough apart to look normal. To avoid suspicion, her breath caught. They weren't just preparing to take her future. They were already taking it. Elena, Lorraine's voice snapped through the room. Elena flinched quickly, locking the phone and letting it slip from her fingers onto the couch. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "I forgot what I was doing." Lorraine stood in the doorway watching her. Always watching. Dinner that night felt like a performance. Nathan asked gentle questions. Lorraine made subtle remarks. Every word was a test, every reaction measured. "You've been distracted," Nathan said, cutting into his food. "Did something happen today?" Elena hesitated just long enough. "I think I saw something in the bedroom," she said slowly. Nathan's knife paused mid-cut. "What do you mean?" She looked down at her plate. "Like a shadow," she whispered. "Or maybe I imagined it." "I don't know." Silence fell over the table. Lorraine's lips curved slightly. Nathan exhaled softly. "That's exactly what I was worried about," he said. "Visual disturbances. We should move up the evaluation." Elena nodded weakly. Inside, something burned. Because now she knew. They didn't need her to fail. They were pushing her there. And as she sat there pretending to unravel, she realized something even worse. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. Total control. And if she didn't move fast, they wouldn't just take everything. They would make sure no one ever believed her again. That night, Elena almost broke. She lay in bed, the ceiling camera, watching Nathan's steady breathing beside her, Lorraine's presence, somewhere in the house like a shadow that never slept. And for the first time since she had uncovered the truth, fear crept in deeper than strategy. What if she was too late? Her hand rested on her stomach, feeling the slow, reassuring movement of her baby. It should have grounded her. Instead, it made everything more real. They were planning to take this child from her. Not someday, soon. Her throat tightened as the weight of it pressed down on her chest. The evidence, the money, the doctor, the stage behavior, it was all too perfect, too controlled. Every angle covered. And she was alone. A sudden wave of panic hit her, sharp and suffocating. Her breathing quickened despite herself, her fingers clutching the blanket as her mind spiraled. What if no one believed her? What if the recordings, the fake messages, the financial transfers, all of it convinced the court she was unstable? What if they won? A soft sound escaped her before she could stop it. Nathan stirred. "Elena," he murmured sleepily, shifting beside her. "What's wrong?" She froze. For a second, she almost told him everything. Almost begged. Almost broke. Instead, she turned toward him, her face crumpling just enough to look fragile, confused, terrified in the way he expected. I can't think straight," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I feel like something's wrong, but I don't know what." Nathan's expression softened instantly, relief flickering behind it, relief that she was exactly where he needed her to be. "It's okay," he said, pulling her into his arms. "That's why we're getting help." "Help!" The word made her stomach twist. "I'm scared," she said quietly. "I know," he replied, "but I won't let anything happen to you." The lie was so smooth it almost sounded real. Elena closed her eyes, letting a tear slip down her cheek. But not because she believed him, because she needed him to believe her. Later, after he fell back asleep, Elena lay awake staring into the darkness. The panic didn't go away, but something else pushed through it. Anger, cold, steady, focused. They had built a system around her, a cage made of documents, recordings, prescriptions, and carefully planted doubt. They had isolated her, rewritten her reality, turned her own mind into evidence against her. And for a moment, she had almost let them win. Her jaw tightened. No, she couldn't out-argue them. Not yet, but she could outplay them. Slowly, carefully, she shifted her hand under the pillow and pulled out her phone. The screen stayed dim as she opened a blank note. Her fingers hovered for a second. Then she started writing. Dates, times, what she heard, what she saw, what she remembered, every detail. If they were documenting her, she would document them. Her hands steadied as she continued, her thoughts sharpening with each line. This wasn't panic anymore. This was preparation. Because if they wanted to prove she was losing her mind, she would prove they were the ones destroying it. A soft creak echoed from the hallway. Elena froze. Footsteps again, slow, measured. Her heart began to pound as she quickly locked her phone and slid it back under the pillow, her body going still just as the bedroom door opened. Lorraine stood there again, but this time she wasn't alone. A man stepped into the light beside her, mid-50s, calm, observant, holding a leather folder. Elena's blood turned ice cold. Lorraine smiled faintly. Perfect timing, she said softly. This is Dr. Hammond. Elena's body reacted before her mind could catch up. She jerked slightly in bed, her eyes widening, just enough to look startled, disoriented, exactly what they expected. Her heart slammed violently against her ribs, but she forced her breathing into uneven, shallow bursts. Who is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Dr. Hammond stepped further into the room, his movements calm, practiced like this was routine for him. He gave her a measured smile, the kind that was meant to reassure, but it felt hollow, rehearsed. "I'm here to help you, Elena," he said gently. "Nathan and your mother-in-law are concerned about you." Concerned? The word felt like poison. Nathan stirred beside her, blinking awake as if surprised, though Elena knew better now. "Hammond," he said, sitting up quickly. "I didn't expect you this early." "We thought it was best not to wait," Lorraine replied smoothly, stepping in behind the doctor. "She's been getting worse." Elena's fingers tightened against the blanket. "Worse." She woke up confused again. Lorraine continued, her voice calm, authoritative. She didn't recognize where she was earlier. "That's not true." Elena started, then stopped herself abruptly, letting her voice falter instead. I mean, I don't remember." Dr. Hammond watched her closely, his eyes sharp behind the calm expression. Not kind, not concerned, evaluating. "Do you often feel disoriented when you wake up?" he asked, taking a small step closer. Elena hesitated, deliberately letting fear flicker across her face. Sometimes, she admitted softly, I think so. Do you experience memory gaps? Periods of time you can't recall? Yes, she said, her voice barely audible. Every answer felt like feeding a machine designed to destroy her. Dr. Hammond nodded slowly, opening the leather folder in his hands. Papers, notes, already prepared, already written. Elena's stomach dropped. You've also been reporting increased anxiety, he said, glancing down briefly. Paranoia. The feeling that someone is watching you. Elena felt the trap close around her. She could deny it, but that would contradict everything they had already documented. I don't know, she said, her voice shaking. Sometimes I feel like I'm not alone even when I am. Lorraine exhaled quietly as if disappointed, but Elena caught the flicker of satisfaction. Nathan reached for her hand again. It's okay, he murmured. Just be honest. That's all we want. Honest. The word almost made her laugh. Dr. Hammond stepped closer to the bed, now lowering his voice slightly. Elena, I'm going to ask you something important, he said. Do you feel capable of taking care of yourself right now? The room went silent. Nathan watched her. Lorraine watched her. Even the air felt like it was holding its breath. Elena looked down at her hands, then at her stomach. Her baby shifted again, a small living reminder of what was at stake. Her throat tightened. I don't know, she whispered. The answer landed exactly how they wanted. Lorraine's posture relaxed slightly. Nathan's grip on her hand loosened. Dr. Hammond made a note. That was all it took. Elena felt something inside her twist violently. Not fear this time, but something darker. Because she could see it now. Every word she said wasn't just being heard, it was being recorded, documented, turned into evidence. Dr. Hammond closed the folder with a soft snap. I think we should proceed with a full evaluation as soon as possible, he said. Given her condition, I would strongly recommend we begin preparations for a competency review. Competency review. The words echoed louder this time. Closer. Real. Nathan nodded slowly. I agree. Lorraine smiled. It's for the best. Elena lowered her head, letting her shoulders slump, her body folding inward, like she was breaking. But behind her lowered gaze, her eyes sharpened. Because now she understood something crucial. This wasn't just a plan anymore. It was already in motion. And if she didn't act soon, the next time someone asked if she was capable, it wouldn't matter what she said, because the decision would already be made. The courtroom was silent when Elena walked in. Not the kind of silence that felt calm, but the kind that pressed against the skin, heavy with expectation. Every seat was filled. Family, lawyers, observers. Even a few people who had only heard whispers of the case, but wanted to see it unfold. At the front, Nathan sat beside his attorney, composed, confident, his hand resting on a stack of documents that would have destroyed her if she hadn't seen them first. Lorraine sat just behind him, watching, waiting. Elena stepped forward slowly, one hand resting protectively over her now 8-month pregnant belly. She looked smaller than she used to, thinner, quieter, but her eyes were no longer lost. They were clear, sharp, awake. Mrs. Carter, the judge, began glancing down at the file. We are here today to review the petition for a competency evaluation filed by your husband. Nathan didn't even look at her. He didn't need to. He thought this was already over. His attorney stood, smooth and practiced, laying everything out: medical records, behavioral reports, documented memory loss, emotional instability, even video footage of Elena's episodes. Carefully edited, perfectly framed, a life rewritten into evidence. When it was Elena's turn, the room shifted slightly. People leaned forward, curious, some already convinced of what they were about to see. A woman losing her mind. Elena stepped up to the stand. For a brief moment, she let her hands tremble. Let her voice catch. Let them see exactly what they expected. I know how this looks, she said softly. I know what you've all been told about me. Nathan's lips curved faintly. Then she looked up, and everything changed. But what you're seeing, she continued, her voice steady, now cutting clean through the room, is not a woman losing her mind. A pause. It's a woman being erased. A ripple of murmurs spread through the courtroom. Nathan's expression tightened. His attorney shifted. Too late. Elena reached into her bag and handed a flash drive to her lawyer. Play it. The screen behind them lit up. At first it was dark. Then Nathan's voice filled the room. Clear. Cold. She's compliant, manageable. By the time this is done, her credibility will be completely destroyed. The air changed instantly. Lorraine's face went still. Nathan didn't move. The footage continued, audio recordings, timestamps, documentation Elena had built piece by piece, quietly, carefully, while they believed she was unraveling. His calls, the hidden camera, the financial transfers. Even Dr. Hammond's visit, his voice, his words recommending a competency review before even meeting her properly. The courtroom wasn't silent anymore. It was alive with shock. You said she was unstable, the judge said sharply, looking directly at Nathan. But this Nathan finally stood. This is taken out of context. He snapped, his control slipping. She's manipulating. No, Elena cut in. Her voice didn't shake. Not this time. Yes, you were. The word landed harder than anything else. You drugged me, she continued, her gaze locked on him. You rewrote my behavior, created records, moved my money, and tried to convince the world I was unfit so you could take everything from me, including my child. Lorraine stood abruptly. This is absurd. Sit down, the judge said, his tone final. Lorraine froze. For the first time since Elena had known her, she looked uncertain. Dr. Hammond avoided eye contact entirely. Nathan didn't speak again. He didn't need to. The damage was already done. By the time the hearing ended, the petition had been dismissed. Investigations were opened. Accounts were frozen. And the man who had built a perfect plan to erase his wife was the one being escorted out of the courtroom under watch. Elena didn't follow him. She stayed where she was, her hand resting over her stomach, her breath finally steady. It wasn't just that she had won. It was that she had taken back something they tried to destroy. Her voice, her truth, her reality. Outside, the air felt different, lighter, cleaner. Zara, her sister, wrapped her arms around her, tightly, careful of her belly. You did it, she whispered. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. No, she said softly. I survived it. Weeks later, the house was quiet, not empty, peaceful. Elena stood by the window, watching the sunlight stretch across the floor. Her hand rested gently over her stomach, feeling the slow, steady movement beneath her skin. Alive, safe, hers. The fear was still there somewhere deep. The memory of being watched, controlled, rewritten, but it no longer owned her. Behind her, a small folder sat on the table. Legal documents, finalized, divorce, full custody, restoration of all financial control. Everything they tried to take, everything she reclaimed. Elena took a slow breath and let it out. Some stories didn't end with revenge. They ended with truth, and sometimes that was stronger. She turned away from the window, her expression calm, grounded, real in a way it hadn't been for months. If you were in her place, would you have fought back the same way, or would you have walked away sooner? Sometimes the hardest part isn't surviving the betrayal, it's trusting yourself enough to see it for what it really is.